Lauren, you've been investigating Section 8 housing in Dubuque for several weeks. Tell us what you found out.
Well, Ron and Tara, like any assistance program, there are those who take advantage of the system, and there are those who use it as a stepping stone, rather, to better their lives. Now, Dubuque receives $4 million a year to help area landlords take in families who do qualify based on their income. That covers about 2/3. Of course, the question everyone's asking, is there a direct link to crime as a result? And well, that all depends on how you look at the numbers. Jan Schmidt is a Dubuque native.
I came into Dubuque and used the system, but I didn't use it as a way of life. I used it as a stepping stone.
After spending some time out of state, she moved back to Dubuque and lived with her parents for a while until she applied for Section 8 housing.
I didn't have much of a history myself when I got my first apartment. And if that landlord didn't take a chance on me, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Today, Schmidt is an example of how the program can help. She's a secretary for the Dubuque Landlord Association. Today, her husband is a landlord. And for years, the two have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of Section 8 rentals.
I think there is more crime in those units.
Well, the numbers are showing there's quite a bit less crime attributed to Section 8.
Since December 2009, the Dubuque Police Department has been tracking arrests, hand-reviewing them on a weekly basis for trends that may point to crime problems in the city.
When we just look at the rough numbers, people that live in rental properties, but just on strict numbers, are committing the most crime.
Which is true. From December 2009 to the beginning of September 2010, Dubuque police arrested more than 1,500 people from rental properties. That attributes to 37% of all arrests.
Crime happens everywhere, and it happens across all economic lines. We have very wealthy people that get arrested. We have the poorest people getting arrested.
And that's true across the board. From December 2009 through the beginning of September 2010, they had more than 4,000 arrests in the city of Dubuque. Of those arrests, 1,500 came from rental properties, 1,250 came from private residences, and 265 from Section 8, the remaining arrests coming from out of city or out of state.
When we see total Section 8, 6.3%, people will make their own judgments on this, but we're thinking that the numbers are showing that it's widespread across all lines and levels of property ownership.
The numbers do not reflect.
In fact, the numbers show that arrests from Section 8 are disproportionately high compared to those who live in other rental housing and private Dubuque households. Dubuque police say individuals on Section 8 account for about 6.5% of all arrests over the course of 9 months. That breaks down to 3 arrests for every 10 Section 8 households. Compare that to non-Section 8 rentals, which account for 2 of every 10. And private residences drop to less than 1 arrest per 10 households. While Section 8 is just a small piece of overall crime, it has a higher rate of arrests.
And we're all kind of alarmed.
Alarmed, 265 arrests over 9 months.
There's so many variables that can go into that, and I know there's repeat offenders in there, and they may have shown up in different places on this graph.
And when people are on the system, a lot of times that's a learned behavior. It is what they know. It is their normal.
A norm the Dubuque Police Department is working to change. Certainly all about how you interpret the numbers. Now, each applicant has to fill out a lengthy application. It involves a background check, both a criminal background check and a previous rental property background check. And while it may be hard to take advantage of the system, it's actually not as easy as you might think. Coming up tonight at 10, we'll hear from a woman who's been living off the system for 3 years and said she's using the system to get back on her feet. Live from the Tri-State Newsroom in Dubuque, Lauren Squires, Iowa's News, Channel 7.
Tonight, News Channel 7's Lauren Squires continues a special assignment report live from our Tri-State Newsroom. You met one woman, Lauren, who is living off Section 8 and using the program to get back on her feet. Tell us more about her.
That's right, Ron and Tara. Dawn Smith is actually a Dubuque native who moved out of the city for a few years, but decided to move back once she was pregnant with her daughter. She lived at home for a few months and then realized she'd like to eventually be able to support her daughter and not rely on her family. That's when she applied for Section 8 housing, and she's been on the system now for 3 years. She says it's helping her get back on her feet.
I did it. I cleaned your room a little bit here.
Meet Dawn Smith's 2-year-old daughter.
Yes.
She's arguably the center of Dawn's world.
I'm working, I'm trying to better myself, and yes, I do have assistance right now.
The two live here in this 2-bedroom apartment. Smith pays just $190 a month to live here. The rest comes from Section 8 housing assistance.
People primarily qualify on the basis of income. If they make less than 50% of area median income.
David Harris with the Dubuque Housing Department says Smith isn't alone. There are more than 900 people in the city of Dubuque receiving that kind of help.
But it doesn't take much to all of a sudden be in a situation where you need help with your rent.
But there are several misconceptions that put Smith at a disadvantage.
Not everybody who has Section 8 is abusing it.
Smith says people often associate Section 8 housing with crime, assuming that she's from out of town and that all of her neighbors are on Section 8 too.
I'm not out there, committing crimes and doing what I'm not supposed to. I go to work every day. I try to provide for my daughter the best I can.
And over the course of 9 months, the Dubuque Police Department tracked arrests from across the city. In that time, 265 came from Section 8. That only accounts for 6.5% of all arrests.
Crime happens everywhere, and it happens across all economic lines.
But when you compare the rate of arrests to other types of housing in Dubuque, 3 arrests come from every 10 Section 8 households.
We do a criminal background check, and we also check to make sure that they're within our income guidelines. But the landlords need to be very proactive.
And that's part of the problem.
For some landlords, a background check means they have a signed check that they can take, and as long as that money's rolling in, they don't care.
Smith says when she was looking for a place to live just 3 years ago, she ran into a similar situation.
They were like, as long as I had the money, I could have the place. I didn't even have to tell them my name.
That's why the Dubuque Landlord Association is doing all they can to educate landlords about Section 8 and explain the importance of background checks.
Pretty soon you've got 6 and 8 people living in an apartment that's really on the lease is for 1 or 2 people.
I think the majority of the people that we serve understand the rules and the regulations of the program.
Thank you, it's so good.
A program that Smith says is helping her get back on her feet and support herself. And of course, support her daughter. Now, she's also participating in the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. That's helping her save money each month that she says she's going to use to go back to school and hopefully eventually buy a home for her and her daughter. Live from our Tri-State newsroom in Dubuque, Lauren Squires, Iowa's News, Channel 7.